Am I the asshole for leaving a family gathering and insisting my mother-in-law apologize over M&Ms? My wife, 34 female, and I, 31 female, have two wonderful children together, 4-year-old twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs and a known sperm donor, and I carried/birthed them. Both kids ended up being practical clones of my wife, so it's pretty clear to everyone who contributed to the genetic material. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this month. My kids were outside playing with their cousins, and my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and I were chatting in the kitchen. At one point, my two run inside from playing and ask if they could have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them, no, we'll be eating in 15 minutes. You can have them after dinner. A little bit later, my sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little cup full of M&Ms that they are eating. I told my kids that they knew they were not supposed to be eating those and took away the cups. My mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and that they can have them. To which I replied, no, they can't. It's dinner time. You were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the cups out of my hands. We go back and forth, prompting my wife to start walking over to us just in time to hear her mother say in front of our kids, I'm saying it's okay. They aren't even your kids. They're my daughters. Just give them the chocolate. My wife had her mom repeat herself and said something like, absolutely not, we are leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both kids, who were now softly crying, and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into chaos. Father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and his wife arguing with their father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It's a mess. After a couple hours at home, the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. My wife spent about 4 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family, from father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be the bad grandma, brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed saying she would die without seeing her great-grandkids again. My wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandma and brother-in-law's family, but we would not bring the kids around my mother-in-law until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology hasn't happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point, mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the asshole for insisting for an apology?
The TV show Black Mirror is genuinely one of the scariest shows that I've ever seen. But what if some of its storylines actually started to come true? Since the episode Nosedive, where you basically leave people Google reviews, we've seen the potential introduction of social credit over in China, and we don't quite have drones the size of bees yet, but people at Harvard are currently trying to make them. And for contacts with cameras, Samsung actually ended up getting a patent for smart contacts. But one of the most prevalent storylines that's actually trending today is the episode with Miley Cyrus in it. In this episode, she plays a singer named Ashley O, and she's famous for her sound, her look, her originality, and even though she seems happy on the inside, she's very miserable. She's being given medication illegally to stabilize her mood, and it gets to the point where her management has so much control that it really isn't even her anymore. And I remember watching this and thinking how sad this would be, and would we even know if a celebrity was going through this? And then we had the introduction of the Free Britney movement. And so many of Britney's fans were able to identify that she was in trouble before she announced to the public. So how did we even get to knowing that Britney was in trouble? Well, a few fans here and there had talked about it briefly, whether it was a celebrity or a fan. The first time it was really mentioned was 2017 on a podcast called Britney's Gram. It was there to dissect Britney Spears' Instagram account, which there was a lot of weird things on. For example, she was putting a lot of timestamps on her Instagram photos, almost as if she was leaving some sort of a paper trail. And a lot of her photos were representative of her being locked up in a metaphorical sense. Like this photo right here says, I put myself in a timeout until I can play nice with others. This may take a while, and the caption says, a while? How about a decade? Well, in 2020, there was a video of her that went viral on TikTok of her supporting LGBTQIA+. People were a little concerned about how she was behaving, and they told her if she needed help to wear yellow in her next video. And guess what? She wore yellow, so people commented to wear blue in her next video. And she responded by wearing blue. So everyone started to wonder about her conservatorship. Who was controlling her? Why did she need help? And why does her paperwork say she has dementia? So how can someone complete 4 world tours, record 4 albums, while also performing and selling out an entire Las Vegas show, while her paperwork says she has dementia? In 2008, Britney was placed under a temporary conservatorship at the age of 26. She had her famous breakdown that became household news overnight on January 4th of 2008. She had really hit rock bottom and was going through her custody dispute with Kevin Federline, and then was locked up again around January 31st. And this particular psych hospital that she was taken to had less than the best reviews. And this is when her conservatorship became permanent, due to her being unfit to take care of herself. Yet 2 months in, she ended up showing up for a role on How I Met Your Mother. and then wiped the floors at the VMAs, winning all the awards. In 2009, she had her circus tour, and a voicemail between her and her lawyer was leaked, saying that she desperately wanted to get out of this conservatorship, but that her father was threatening her. She did her Femme Fatale tour next, and then in 2012, she was an X Factor judge. Yet she was still deemed too unfit to take care of herself. Part 4 to free Britney. So Britney had even tried to bring up her conservatorship on the Jonathan Ross show, but that part was cut. And in 2016, people noticed that she posted a photo with Hillary using the hashtag I'm with her, but then had to remove it, which turned out later because she couldn't vote. And after that, she was supposed to perform for her new Domination show, but then announced that she couldn't go due to her father's health issues, which it later turned out that her father, Jamie, had actually canceled the show because she wasn't taking her new medication. So once he pulled it, he told her to just blame it on his health issues. And his own grandson ended up coming on to Alive and talking about how awful he is. And in April of 2020, she was sent back to a mental health facility, which the anonymous paralegal who gave information to the podcast said that she had been forced there between mid-January all the way up to April. And then Kevin Federline ended up charging Jamie Spears for allegedly abusing one of their kids. And because he's Britney's conservator, she ended up only having 30% visitation with her kids because he basically owns her. And after the documentary came out, she said she was embarrassed, but was that really Britney? Part 5 to free Britney. Well, as we've stated, she's had very weird stuff on her Instagram, but it seems as though midway through the content changed, and someone by the name of Cassie Petrie, who's her social media manager, has been posting for her. At least we know some of the time, maybe not all the time. And then on June 23rd, as we all heard, Britney broke her silence. She came out and shared everything that she's been through under her conservatorship to the courts. 13 years of her rights have been fully taken away. She can't have a baby, she can't get married, she can't take out her IUD. She's forced to work even when sick, can't even change her own kitchen cabinets. And whenever she actually tried to set up boundaries, she was put on lithium. Which I didn't know much about this drug, but this is what the holistic psychologist on Instagram said about it. Basically, no one is actually looking out for her mental health, and everyone is banking on her payroll. From her parents to her sister to everyone in her circle. And if you want to hear more about her sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, go to my Instagram, go to my Middle Reels tab, and I'm going to be talking about all the stuff that she's gotten into, because there seems to be such a double standard in this family. Britney's father is an alcoholic and abusive, yet he's been deemed fit to take care of her. Last part to free Britney. So since all of this has come out, there has been a huge public reaction and an overwhelming amount of support. Iggy Azalea even came out and said how she was a witness to this behavior, and she was even invited to testify before Congress. Christina Aguilera released this statement about her, and as we've been watching her Instagram again lately, we've seen that she's been on a trip, yet these photos have been used for her previously a year ago. So it's probably just Cassie running her account. Really, Britney just needs healing and support right now, and I'm sure there's going to be even more updates by the time I come out with this video. And this whole story really shows the importance of autonomy. There's other celebrities like Amanda Bynes who are also under conservatorships, and we really don't know how bad those are. The court system seemed to be just so messed up, so people talking about it and actually providing social pressure helps. So we'll continue to talk about it, and hopefully it'll save Britney.
This is the story of the time my client got completely drunk on set of a photo shoot. This story takes place back when I used to do boudoir shoots. I would meet the clients and the photographer in a hotel. I would set up my entire makeup station in one room, and they would be taking photos in the room next to us. For a lot of women, these types of photo shoots are just a little bit out of their comfort zone. And there were several clients who would choose to have just a little bit of liquid courage before stepping into the photo shoot room. For the sake of the story, let's just call this girl Mandy. As soon as Mandy arrived on set to get her makeup done, she had already told me that she was extremely nervous about this photo shoot. Mandy told me she was nervous for a couple of reasons, all of which I had heard before, so I started preparing her and doing the best I could to make her feel comfortable in the makeup room. Shortly after I started on her makeup, she asked me if there was any way she would be able to have some of the wine that was on the counter. I said, "Yep, absolutely, that stuff is there for you guys." She headed over and made herself a glass of wine, and then sat back down in my chair while I continued to do her makeup. Whenever I work on photo shoots like this, I usually give myself an hour to finish each client's makeup. Since they will also have an appointment time with the photographer, it's extremely important that I get my clients done on time. Because of the slight time crunch, I was so focused on making sure I finished her makeup on time that I hadn't even paid attention at all to how many times she had filled up her wine cup. The last step in me finishing Mandy's makeup was doing her eyeliner and applying false lashes. As you know, this requires her to be pretty still, and even though I usually place my hand on top of their head to stabilize it, for some reason I just couldn't get her head to stay still. Let me remind you that I had already done her eyeshadow and the entire rest of her makeup, so I was really confused why all of a sudden she started acting totally different. I didn't want to risk ruining her makeup by messing up her eyeliner, so I asked her if she could just be a little more still and make sure she was holding her head up so I didn't have to support her entire weight. When she looked up at me, that's when I realized that she was totally wasted. She started slurring her words, telling me all sorts of TMI stories, one of which included her having to go to the ER to get a tampon removed when she was like 14. And when I finished her makeup, she legitimately fell out of my chair onto the hotel floor. I went and got the photographer from the other room and told her about Mandy's situation. Both of us advised Mandy not to do her shoot that day, and we even offered to reschedule. But Mandy kept insisting that she got those pictures done because her wedding was just around the corner and she wanted to give them to her husband on her honeymoon. I went down to the lobby and asked if they had any crackers, bread, rolls, something. I took Mandy back up a small snack, and as she was eating it, she literally just vomited all over the entire floor. Eventually, she made it to the bathroom and she threw up in there. And all of this was happening while I had another client on the way. Long story short, I guess don't drink alcohol before your photo shoot.
He cheated on me, so I pronounced him dead. So I met this guy during my senior year of college. We'll call him Rox. Rox was a great guy. There was nothing fishy about him whatsoever. He always helped me out, talked to me about personal issues most people wouldn't talk about, and I trusted him. I wanted to marry him someday. So one day he took me out to this nice dinner and proposed to me. I guess you could say I was the happiest girl alive. We had this beautiful wedding and legally got married. I was happy. So one day I was scrolling through his phone to get his mother's number because I forgot it and I wanted to ask her something. And then this girl's name popped up. We'll call her Vanessa. I was scrolling through their conversation and he seemed loyal at first, saying he had a wife, but then he gave in and ended up cheating. They sent nudes back and forth and planned to meet. I walked up to him and slammed down the phone in front of him and asked what this was. He told me that he was sorry and he could explain, and I said no. I ran out of the house and decided to stay at my girlfriend's for a bit. He texted me back a large paragraph saying he wanted to explain the reasons why he was cheating on me, claiming he wasn't justifying it. And you will not believe what he said. Come back for part 2. So he texted me wanting to explain the reason why he cheated. He said he cheated on me because I take way too much time with work and I'm so busy with college that he was feeling lonely. I asked him, why didn't you just address it with me first? He said he was too scared to in fear of losing the relationship. I didn't really know what to do at this point, but I knew I needed to distance myself in order to forgive him for a while. So I came back home the next day. Me and him sat down and talked about it, and we came up with a conclusion that he would get hobbies and spend more time with his friends so he wouldn't feel as lonely. I work at a morgue, and I do makeup on deceased people's faces. I told him I was going on a vacation to forgive him and that I needed to forgive him in order to continue this relationship, and he said okay. So I ended up going with my friend and we ended up having a ton of fun. I completely forgot about the whole entire problem and I was ready to forgive him. But then I got a DM from some random girl and she said, hey, are you dating Rox? And I said, yeah, why? She sent me a picture of a pregnancy test and a screenshot of messages between him and her, and you will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 3. So she sent a picture of a pregnancy test and messages between him and her. What he was saying was absolutely disgusting. He was saying how he loved her and how he was happy that she was having a baby. And he also said that he planned on leaving me anyways. I told her thank you for informing me and I'm so sorry she had to go through this. She also apologized as well and said thank you for not coming at me. She told me she had no idea that he was in a relationship, especially since she specifically asked if he was single or not, and she showed me the text messages to prove that. So that's when I came up with the plan. I ended up making him a fake death certificate. So I ended up showing the landlord and he gave me the lease in my name. I moved his stuff out into the hall and I changed all the locks. He was staying at that girl's place, so she helped me plan everything out. The next day he tried to come inside. He realized he couldn't. I left him a note outside explaining what had happened, and I told him to go live with his baby mama. He kept spamming my phone, banging on the door, trying everything he could to possibly get in contact with me. I just cut him off because I knew my self-worth. Always know your self-worth when it comes to cheating partners and never stay in the relationships. Cheaters are always cheaters. Follow for more story times.